Now the easiest way I think to have this is to grate it. So you grate it on that little grater, and you'll grate about a teaspoon, and you put it in a little teapot and pour boiling water on it and let it sit probably 10 minutes. Now that might be too strong for you, but I love it. I love it like that. If it's too strong, you just water it down a little bit. If someone's very cold, maybe they've been caught out in the cold or something and it's very hard to warm them up, give them a cup of hot ginger tea and it will warm them up very nicely. So it can be used for nausea, it can be used to warm a person if they're chilled or cold. And you saw too, it is one of the recipes in the flu bomb. I was at a function, it was a health seminar, and in the break everyone went and had their herb teas, and there was a girl with a tiny little grater grating ginger. And I said, "Ah, ginger." She said, "I'm an entertainer, I'm a singer." She said, "I was in Greece last year and I lost my voice, and a little Greek lady made me a hot ginger tea." She said, "I sung that night." So she said, "I travel with my little grater everywhere I go." So very nice on a sore throat or hoarse throat. Now we're going to look at what you can do with ginger externally. So I always take a plate, and I always take the plastic square. Again, you can use a wool square next to that, but you still need that plastic backing so that it doesn't wet all your clothes, and also so it insulates. And then we put a cloth over it, and it's usually around this size. And then I grate straight onto it. So why would I use a ginger poultice? I would use a ginger poultice for an inflamed joint. So the easiest way to remember this is ginger is for joints. So that would be gout, it would be arthritis, also a sore back, an inflamed back. Now when someone's got an inflamed back, they usually put a hot water bottle on it, is that right? But if the back is hurting because of inflammation, where's my knife? Here. The hot water bottle will relax, and you know the reason why the hot water bottle relaxes is because when we're in pain, the muscles around that area tighten and cramp. Basically, they go out in sympathy with the pain. And you put a hot water bottle on that and it relaxes those cramping muscles. So you do get some relief, but it does not help the inflammation. It can even make it worse. But ginger, if you apply a ginger poultice anywhere where there's inflammation, the ginger pulls the inflammation out of the joint to the skin, and the skin gets really hot. So if you apply this to the lower back, the heat relaxes the muscles, and yet the ginger is reducing the inflammation. So you do about that much, and then how you make the poultice is you put the left side over and the right side over, and the bottom comes up and the top goes down. So you can see I've made like a little package there. And then I turn that over, and the part that's touching the skin is where you've just got one layer. And the beauty of this little package also is that you've got a few layers behind, so that if it is quite wet, it will help to soak up any drips. And then you will apply that to the area. Now let's say that I have an inflamed joint, then you would apply it to the area there. But you can see even with the plastic on that, not much is touching the skin. It's only the very edges. And then you bandage that on. Now if someone has an inflamed joint, say a wrist or an ankle or a knee or toes, we apply the ginger poultice, or even in a sore back, we apply the ginger poultice maybe about 6 o'clock in the evening. And within half an hour, if there's inflammation in there, the skin gets very hot. And then the person has the choice when they're going to bed, is that heat all right? Because if it's too hot, they can just take it off. But if it feels good to them, they can go to sleep. If you put it on just before bed and the skin gets really hot, it could wake up and cause discomfort. But when people have gout or arthritis, the heat is usually very, very nice. And again, for a sore lower back, it's very nice because, again, it pulls the inflammation out of the joint and the heat relaxes those muscles that tend to cramp whenever there's pain. So I'll tell you the story of a lady who saw my lecture on YouTube. She emailed me the story, and she put the ginger poultice on her sore knee. She was so excited it reduced the pain by 50%. The skin did get hot. You see, all the inflammation's being drawn out. So the next morning she made another one. And then she made another one for overnight. And when she woke up in the morning, the skin was all swollen and blistered. She said, "What have I done?" I said, "You've overdone it." You've just overdone it. You've just pulled too much inflammation out and it's irritated the skin. So if you do have an inflamed joint anywhere, just do it maybe for 4 hours in the afternoon or even overnight, but just don't do it non-stop because, again, you can inflame the skin. Not a problem because you just have to leave the skin, maybe put a castor oil compress on that knee until it settles right down. One lady said, "My skin's burning." And I said, "Actually, it won't burn, but what's the joint like?" And she said, "Oh, actually, it's good." We had one lady and she said, "I've got this swollen finger. The joint was swollen twice the size." She said, "This has been paining me for 2 years." So we made a tiny little ginger poultice, put it over, put a little bit of plastic over it to insulate, and then taped it on. And this is called a paper tape. This is a really soft tape on the skin. In the morning, she was so excited that the joint had gone right down and she could move her finger. That was just one night. Sometimes it takes more than one night. But that ginger is excellent for joints. So remember, gout, arthritis, you can do it. One man said his big toe, he put it on his big toe, and all the pain went out. And then the next toe was painful, so he put it on there. Then the next night, it was okay and had gone to the next one. He said it was jumping toes. I said, "Did it go to the next foot?" He said, "No." So again, you're just listening to the body. Now, this poultice, once it's used, because it's vegetable matter, has to be discarded, but you could make it in the afternoon and fold it over like that and use it that night. Now we're going to make a potato poultice. Now, I just told you that the ginger is for joint, well, the potato is for tissue. The potato is very, very gentle. Potato can be used on sore eyes, conjunctivitis. So again, we're going to put our plastic down and put our square down and use potato. So potato is used for tissue inflammation. So swollen eyes, sore eyes, red eyes. It can be used for ingrown toenails. It can be used for a splinter that you couldn't get out. So tissue inflammation. Sprained ankle, very good on sprained ankle. So the lady that had the swollen knee because she did too many ginger poultices, I said to her, "Put a potato on." Potato is very cooling, so it's great for all tissue inflammation. The potato is also a drawer. So again, you spread that out. My girlfriend rang me one day, when this is years ago, when she had babies and so did I, and I could hear her little boy just crying and crying. I said, "What's the matter with Louis?" She said, I don't know what's happened, but his little penis is twice the size. He was 10 months old. What are you going to do? And if you go to hospital, what are they going to do?" I said, "Quickly make up a potato poultice. Any tissue swelling, the potato poultice." So she made up a poultice maybe about that size. See, it's very cooling. And she laid it on the area. She put his nappy, you call it a diaper, and the little fella, within 5 minutes, it must have really soothed it, he fell asleep. You see, that just soothes any tissue that's swollen. She said he slept for 2 hours. What does that tell you? He's not in pain anymore. She said when he woke up, he was happy. She quickly changed his nappy or diaper and everything was back to normal. Now, sometimes you don't know what it is. Just, if in doubt, just use that grated potato. So what would it have been? Well, her little boy was crawling around the floor of their hippie home. You don't know whether he got a little bit of dirt in there or whether there was a bite. Sometimes you don't know, and you're not going to play around with that area. So can you see with the ginger, you would never put the ginger on tender areas, but the potato is very soothing and cooling. You would do that. I'll tell you the most remarkable story I've had with the potato. When I lived in the rainforest, there was a guy who lived on our property at the end of our paddock, you call it a field, in a caravan. He was a real hippie, and he was sickling the grass. You know what a sickle is? With bare feet. So what's going to happen next? The sickle went into the back of his ankle. Now, I heard about it, but I didn't see him for a few days. And one of the guys said, have you seen Chris? His foot's up like a red balloon, and there's a red line going up his leg. And he's lying in bed smoking marijuana, waiting for nature to heal. The body will heal if you give it the right conditions. And one of the problems with the marijuana, it was dulling the pain, but the pain was telling him to do something. So I said, we'll bring him up. So they brought him up, and the first thing I do, and Vanessa will show you this tomorrow night, I got 2 buckets of water, one hot, one ice cold. And I put his foot straight into the hot water. Now I had his foot in my hand, and I was just watching his face. If it was too hot, I put a bit of cold in, because that first one can be, hard to take. 3 minutes. See, after 3 minutes, the blood slows down. So then you put it into the ice cold and everything moves up again, as Vanessa will explain to you. While it's in the cold, I put a little bit more hot water in the hot. And then so 30 seconds in the cold, after 30 seconds, things are slowing down, so you bring it back into the hot. So I did that 3 times, 3 hots and 3 colds. His pain had reduced by 50%. See, what that does is it brings fresh blood into the area, which drives old blood out, which gets the inflammation down somewhat. And then I made a very big grated potato poultice. You see, he had a wound that had healed on the outside, and it had not healed on the inside. And tetanus happens in an area of a wound that hasn't healed from the inside and sealed on the outside, and there's an element of horse organism. Well, we had a horse in the paddock, so he was a perfect environment for tetanus. So I put a big grated potato poultice on his foot, and I said, come back in 2 hours. He could limp now. So just that reaction tells me we're getting results. When he came back after 2 hours, I took this off and the wound was oozing, and the red line had gone down about 4 inches. Now, if he was still in pain and the red line hadn't gone down, we would take him straight to hospital. If in doubt, but we're an hour from hospital, so we could see results. And he did not want to go to hospital. So if he didn't want to go to hospital and we could see he was dying, we'd take him. Of course you do. So I did hot and colds again, and I did another grated potato, and I said, come back again at 6 o'clock, another few hours. And every time he came back, the line was going down, 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 and the foot was going down, down, and the foot was still oozing. See, this draws, and when you took it out, you could see the area where it was drawing. And then he put the grated potato on, we put it on after another hot and cold all night. He came over in the morning, we did another hot and cold, and the red line was gone. And the foot was just about back to normal. Looked like a dried prune, but you don't care about that, you just want that to go down. He said, what'll I do now? And I said, you might be right now. I said, see how it goes, but if it starts to hurt, if it starts to throb, and if that seals, we need to do all that again. So I basically left it with him then. But it healed. You can imagine that could have been a very serious situation. So that was quite remarkable. I've also seen this draw out splinters. You know, sometimes you get a splinter in a finger that's just too painful to get out. If you put the grated potato on, it'll keep that swelling down. It will not get pussy or what they call infected. And usually after a couple of days, you can just get a needle on the tip of it, press it, and it'll usually just come out. I've just seen that happen a few times. So the grated potato can be used in all areas of tissue inflammation. Now we're going to have a look at cayenne pepper. Cayenne pepper, we've got cayenne pepper in this little container here. Cayenne pepper is a remarkable herb. Some people say we shouldn't use it because it's a stimulant. It is not a stimulant like caffeine or alcohol or marijuana is a stimulant. It's a blood stimulant. That means it's good because Leviticus 17:11 states that the life of the flesh is in the blood. So anything that moves blood is going to be helpful. There's a book you can get. It's by Sam Beiser. It's called Curing with Cayenne. And he shows in that book that you put cayenne with any other herb and it'll intensify that other herb's action. It's a blood stimulant. It can be used internally and it can be used externally. And I think in your book it shows how it does three main things internally in the blood. It thins the blood, it strengthens the arterial walls, and it opens the capillaries. So let me tell you about an experience I had a few years ago. It was one of our retreats. I got the call, lady'd had a heart attack. I was only 3 minutes away, that's why you have to be fit. I ran down, it was a cooking class with about 16 people, and she was lying on the floor. She was 80. Her husband said she'd already had a few that year, and they always called the ambulance, but they thought, let's see what they do. And I said to my offsider, cayenne pepper, quickly. We got the cayenne pepper. Now, there was a guy holding her pulse, and he said the pulse is almost gone. She was just white. So I don't know how much I got. You're just in a hurry. So I think I got about half a teaspoon, put it straight in her mouth. She was half conscious, gave her a little bit of water to drink. And the guy holding the pulse yelled out, the pulse is strong. This would have been 2 minutes. And you could feel that pulse come back and all the blood came back to her face. She sat up and said, what happened? Everyone around was going, whoa. And I said, no, it's not me, it's the cayenne pepper. So we sold out of cayenne pepper that program. What did the cayenne pepper do? It thinned the blood, it opened the capillaries and got a dramatic delivery of blood through the whole body. Remember, 1 minute for 1 drop of blood to go around your whole body. I have read about it, but then I actually experienced it. So cayenne pepper can also be used to boost hydrochloric acid. You take it in internally, it'll boost digestion. Cayenne pepper can also ease a sore throat. Remember, it's in the flu bomb. It might give it initial tingle, but then when that tingle settles down, it eases it. Some people take or are told to take aspirin for a blood thinner. In fact, I have read where it is recommended that anyone over the age of 50 should be on half an aspirin a day. You might have heard that. Well, what the research is showing today is that aspirin causes stomach bleeds. It's the #1 cause of stomach ulcers. It causes brain bleeds and eye bleeds. That's what the recent research is showing. Cayenne pepper will not cause that at all. But if cayenne pepper's in your blood and it sees a bleed, it'll constrict the blood vessels to stop the bleeding. Yes, it dilates the blood vessels when it's in the blood, but if it sees a break, it'll constrict that. Beautiful illustration of Psalm 104 verse 14, that God gave herbs for the service of man. Remember? They're there to serve you. Where would you like me? What would you like me to do? Thin that. Seal that. That's the cayenne pepper. In fact, it's just about a first aid kit in one, is the cayenne pepper. And you'll get used to it. Now you can use it externally. I'm going to show you how you can use it externally, and I'm going to show you how you can use it for poor circulation in the feet, cold feet. I find people that allow their feet to be cold, eventually their feet are numb. And eventually, the next step after numb feet is gangrene of the toes. You see, the blood's the life of the flesh, and any part of the body that's cold, blood's not going in there. So blood's not feeding the area, it's not feeding the herbs, the nerves. You cannot put cold feet into hot water or you'll damage the tissues. So what can you do? You can make a cayenne compress to put on the bottom of the feet. So to make a cayenne pepper compress, you get some paper towel and you cut it to the size of the foot, which would be, let's just guess, it'll be about this. I guess I'm guessing my size foot. And you put it on, I've doubled over a couple of layers of cling wrap there. And then you put a little olive oil on there. Not a lot, because you don't want to soil your sheets. So I'm going to put it in this plate to show you how you can put it on lightly. So I'm just going to dab it on. The reason why I'm putting olive oil there is in a minute I'm going to sprinkle the cayenne on it, and this causes the cayenne to stick to it. So it's really just there for the cayenne pepper to stick to it. Now that's about the right amount. As I said, any more and it will leak because this compress is worn overnight. So you can see I've just got a light sprinkling of oil there. And now I'm going to put the cayenne pepper on that. So you put about ½ teaspoon for each foot. So that's about ½ teaspoon. So you can see the way I'm holding it up, the cayenne pepper is now sticking to the paper and the foot goes straight onto that. And then you put a sock on and leave it on all night. If I put that on my foot, by 4 in the morning, I'm waking up wanting to rip it off because my feet are so hot. But if someone has no feeling in their feet, or if someone regularly has cold feet, often by morning they're feeling a little tingle. So you would probably wear it every second night until your feet get hot. So that's a very easy way to warm up feet, because feet must be warm. So you'd put one on each foot. I've even made it and folded it up and left it at one lady's house that I visited, and she had no feeling in her feet. Peripheral neuropathy, that's a side effect of chemotherapy where people lose that feeling in their feet. They can bring their feet alive again with the cayenne pepper compresses. So you could even make a few and fold them over like that. So I left them with a lady so that she could use them. Let's have a look at our, oh, can you see that? So we're already getting a syrup there. And you'll be able to taste this in a couple of days. Remember, you leave that 24 hours and then you strain it out. Last and certainly not least is cayenne pepper. No, we've done cayenne pepper. It's getting late. It's charcoal. Charcoal does not absorb, it adsorbs. What does adsorb mean? Adsorb means that it binds, and it binds poisons, it particularly binds poisons. It binds the poisons to its millions of little facets. So under a microscope there are all these little facets like this, and it adsorbs poisons by binding them to those facets. It's been known for a long time. NASA filter their water and their air in outer space with charcoal. Many masks have charcoal in them to neutralise the poison. In hospitals they use charcoal to filter the blood for dialysis. And in cases of poisoning, anyone who's worked in casualty knows that they give a dose of charcoal. Because if someone's been poisoned and they take charcoal, the charcoal will adsorb and bind that poison to its facets and it's basically safe until it gets out of the body. So internally it can be used for any case of poisoning, and it can also be used for diarrhea or vomiting. Many people that go to Asia always travel with charcoal tablets because if they get a bit of what's called barley belly or diarrhea, they'll take the charcoal. You can also use charcoal on the outside, and it can be used for bee stings, spider bites, snake bites, wasp bites. It's quite incredible the way once you apply that, the sting comes out almost immediately, or the pain, I should say. Now, it's very messy stuff to work with, so I'm going to show you a mess-free way to make the poultice. And you can make this ahead of time and keep it in the fridge. When you mix charcoal with water, it's like mixing dirt and water. It doesn't mix very well. And so we're going to use psyllium. You can use slippery elm, or you can use ground linseed. So we're going to use a teaspoon of psyllium to 2 teaspoons, or this is probably equal to, this spoon is equal to 2 teaspoons. So what we've just done, 2 teaspoons of psyllium to 4 teaspoons of charcoal. You always put the lid straight back on the charcoal because you don't want to drop it. And you seal it while you mix it. So you want to mix that quite nicely. And what we're going to do is put water in there. And then we're going to let that mix or gel together. And we're going to roll it out so it's thin. And you've got a thin, jellied charcoal poultice. So to that, you'd probably do about half a cup of water. And you move that around for a while and it'll start to gel. Now the beauty of this is that you'll roll that out, get the air out, and you'll roll it out so it's a strip, a thin strip, and then you put it in the fridge. Or you'd put it in the freezer if you don't think it's going to be used for a while. And then if someone has a bee sting or a spider bite or a snake bite, then you cut a section, cut it round, peel the top off, and it can be slapped straight on. It'll have that plastic topping, and you can bandage that on. So it's very, very easy to do. I think every fridge, every home, every freezer should have some of these, because when you do get a sting, it's very, very painful. This can also be used, I'm just going to get the air out, it can also be used for a conjunctivitis, red eyes, painful eyes. Remember we talked that you could use your potato for that, but you could also use this. It's starting to gel up a little bit now. So I'm just going to get a bit more of the air out. So then you just squeeze that up. So you can see it's nice and thin now. You put that in the fridge or freezer, it'll go. It's quite jellied now. So you can see the psyllium is just to have it jelly. And that's very user-friendly. See, that's quite thin. So if someone has a bee sting on here, you quickly cut an area around, take the plastic off, put it straight on the skin, bind it on. It's very quick and easy. So that's a no-mess, easy way to make your charcoal poultice for the outside. If someone's got a sore knee, they could put charcoal on one night and castor oil on another night, ginger on another night, potato on another night, and see what it does. And see what your body says, I like that one. I didn't like that one as much as that one. So you can play with it. The different poultices and compresses do different things, and you will soon discover what works best. Thank you for your attention tonight, and so ends our Natural Remedy seminar.